This whole video is basically a test. I basically want to just talk about alpha betas on a separate video rather than the other video. You'll see. So what happened with alpha betas? Now, before we can answer that, we need to go back for a bit. To summarize, Alpha Betas was an animated cartoon created by 4 Vanoss Crew members, basically Terrorizer, Vanoss, and Wildcat. Basically, in this universe, video games power everything, a secret the government is hiding from the public.
Are you telling me we're powering the country with video games?
This means energy grids are being powered by gamers and require a hefty amount of people to constantly play games. Whether a game faces a bug or a hacker, or whatever exploits and glitches, gamers leave, which means no energy for certain areas, whether it be cities, government buildings, and such. This is where Alpha Team comes in. A team of 4 young adults will go into these games to solve these problems in the most inappropriate and chaotic way. Despite this, they get the job done. These 4 characters include Eddie, Tommy, Buck, and Mason. Eddie is an egotistical leader, Tommy's a bit of a bitch, Buck is loud, and Mason is an asshole. Ruby is the team's assistant, and Eddie has a massive crush on her. Steven is another assistant, he's just there for now. Allison is the one who runs the entire division, covering everyone's asses and ensuring the job gets done. Talking about the actual pilot itself, it starts off with Allison basically receiving an audit from a person named Daryl who will determine if the whole division's worth it. Alright, skipping past forward, they showcase Daryl what goes on, show Alpha Team doing their mission and proving their worth. Daryl isn't convinced, says he's gonna shut it down, he's fucking dead. And most importantly, it's revealed that Allison was sabotaging Alpha Team by screwing them over with the Bravo Team, in hopes of having a reason to fire and I assume replace Alpha Team with Bravo Team, due to Alpha Team's reckless behavior. Also, Steven's a robot. The pilot in the show is already pretty solid. You know, you got solid characters, solid conflict, and a solid story. However, the animation is the real highlight in this episode, because it is done by both Starburns Industry and Yeti Farm. The animation was stunning at some points, doing its very best to keep me attentive at least. The characters are always moving despite nothing happening. The action sequences are very enjoyable to watch. The visuals and aesthetics have a very nice modern western cartoon style, more similar to other cartoons like Inside Job, Gravity Falls, and Rick and Morty, which makes sense considering they involve the same animation studio. There's some moments in the art style that really shines, and it's nice. The writing is solid, the story and characters are very enjoyable to watch, the jokes are funny.
And we have absolutely no idea what the energy division actually does.
That's a blank notebook, Daryl.
The whole thing has me at least interested to see what's next for Alpha Betas. Voice acting was alright, Vanoss Crew could have done better, but other than that, the rest was good. Alright, so if the pilot was extremely successful, well, what happened to Alpha Betas? In French Quebec, they have this phrase that roughly translates in English to, they fucked up. And that's exactly what happened to Alpha Betas. Going over the newer episodes we got, you'll see very quickly how they kind of messed up here, you know? Episode 2 is the prime reason why the show didn't really resonate too much with everyone, because it simply just changes the entire story the pilot was trying to set up. Episode 2 starts off with an 18-month time skip. You know what happened in those 18 months? Bravo Team is gone, Allison had already betrayed Alpha Team, and all the cool reviews we could have saw just happened off screen. This was so they could replace an actual interesting story to a more watered down version in which there's just this one hacker ruining everything and they have to take them down. Alpha Team can't die as well. Another thing they changed from the pilot. One thing I loved about the concept was the mixture of reality and the virtual world in the pilot. The idea of being able to die, I always thought could bring out some interesting scenarios for characters. What if one of them kept being the first to die and started taking that frustration onto the team? What if one of the members kills the teammate and then that dead teammate gets pissed off and tries to pull them out of a chair or something and it causes some sort of malfunction or whatever? Oh well, it doesn't matter because they can't die anyways. Because they can't die, they also made it so the story goes that they're in this one colossal sized mega game that includes multiple games in one game, needing to go through the portals in order to proceed onto the next game. Also, Steven being a robot not being a surprise to Alpha Team kinda sucks, man. It's another surprise in the pilot that I guess just doesn't matter anymore. Actually, you know what, speaking of not mattering, Steven now has this rival, this other character named Spunk, who's this like AI assistant or whatever. Spunk doesn't do anything. Well, I mean, he helps the team, I guess, but I don't know. They could have just used Steven for that. And because of like Spunk, Steven is now actually just a useless character. They have this like rival between Spunk and Steven, and spoiler alert, it doesn't go fucking anywhere. This whole thing doesn't go anywhere. The newer episodes are now only 12 minutes, which is a downgrade compared to the 23-minute pilot we got before. Shorter episodes mean they have less time to establish a deeper the plot and do character interactions. Not like it matters because the writing's kind of dog shit.
Well, I would have preferred a human skin for my first full body experience, but as I always say,
I take it back. Give the writers a fucking gold star for this one. However, you can still make cool, interesting stories in just 12 minutes. Regular show did it in 11 minutes. Smiling Friends is 12 minutes long per episode. Aqua Teen Hunger Force was able to do funny shit in 11 minutes as well.
Well, pack your things, maggot. We going to the Middle East.
Hell no! Let's see the Marines try to take me like this!
Shit, no!
They were capable of making something cool despite slicing the duration per episode in half. Another thing they cut was animation quality. Looking at the rest of the season, there's much less action sequences going on compared to the pilot, which really blows as the action was another selling point for me when watching alpha betas. The animation also just looks different. I'm not sure how the animation studios ended up changing the animation quality. Hey, wait a minute. Starburns Industries just stopped working for alpha betas. I have no idea why, but that's certainly awkward when an animation company they were promoting as the ones to be working for alpha betas to convince donors to give them money just wasn't actually working for alpha betas at all. I mean, to be fair, despite replacing them with octopi and technically scamming all those donors, the animation was fine. Like, it was certainly a downgrade, but it's not that terrible, and there's even moments in which the animation actually looks great, but yeah, the lack of action sequences is certainly a step down. I also feel like the characters somehow became less interesting. I rewatched the pilot to figure out the differences between then and now, and I've come to the conclusion that they really just don't do much with the characters in the newer episodes. Go back to the pilot. You can see the episodes establishes that Tommy is knowledgeable in his transportations, but is incompetent in utilizing that knowledge to help the team. Eddie is extremely capable of handling business when it comes to combat, but he's always trying to impress Ruby, which prevents him from doing certain things. Buck is a cocky demolitions expert that has a short temper for everything, constantly facing bad luck during these fights. Mason is the next most capable member for combat that's always been an ass of himself. Checking out the newer episodes, they didn't really build on these traits or characteristics, nor did they really show much of them. Episode 3 shows Mason hating on shotguns, which makes sense considering he's used to snipers, being a sniper's expert. Episode 4 shows Eddie being an egotistical maniac because he was challenged and questioned about his leadership skills, which causes him to crash out. That episode is actually not so bad because it actually had something interesting going on with the characters, but other than that, like, basically nothing. These characters really don't do much. Besides the pilot, there were really only 2 games they were put into that we got to see. The Red Dead parody game shown in the pilot helped showcase the qualities such as Eddie's leadership, Mason's combat skills, Tommy's knowledge, and Buck's role as support. However, the new episodes don't really flesh out these characters using these game parodies at all. It's even worse when they're not in a game because then they really don't have much going on. By the way, the story sucks. After scrapping the original story in the pilot, it basically goes that Alpha Team is about to be canceled. Oh my god, they threw away the pilot story for a cancellation trope. After Allison betrayed them off screen, Eddie wants his revenge and the rest don't want to be cancelled, so they help the energy division by going into this like mega game to find this hacker guy who is actually Elon Musk, who is actually an alien that is all tech CEOs or something. Alien wants Alpha Team to save their wife and Alpha Team goes to do so. Then it becomes a standoff against Alpha Team and the CIA. Ruby convinces them not to betray them and they shoot the alien instead. It took Ruby less than a minute to resolve everything. Like, what the fuck? The end, by the way. The end? That was it? There were only 5 episodes in the entire show, and the entire show led to fucking nowhere. But that's it. The end. Good night. $1.3 million for 5 episodes of a show that doesn't go anywhere. Actually, we're not even done. They released a holiday special afterwards for Christmas. They also released these interview shorts onto each Vanoss Crew member's channel. The last episode ended up being bonus content of this mockumentary. Like, the hell? Like, there's also these deleted scenes exclusive to the website. Hold on a minute, what? After season 1 ends, they released a 5-minute short holiday special for Christmas in which they all do gift exchanges, 12 minutes in total of interview shorts, and a 9-minute mockumentary. That's about 26 minutes worth of bonus content. Why didn't they spend that time on the actual season, like the actual plot, rather than the bonus content? Why are they making comics that go nowhere? And there were about 3 minutes of quote-unquote deleted scenes exclusive to the website that were completely polished and well-produced. Why did they even remove them? None of them were controversial enough to be off of YouTube, bud. What are we talking about? I mean, I've said this before, making more episodes doesn't even matter because the writing already blows, but maybe having more time on the episodes could have at least made the revamped story more interesting. Maybe give us more character interactions or whatever. Maybe not resolve the entire conflict in about a minute. I don't know. Just a thought. Hey Fred, give me an animated show with a great pilot. A great pilot. And then just fuck it all up and make a terrible season. Terrible season? Hey Jimmy, give me Alpha Betas. Alpha Betas? Alright, I'm being dramatic. The show isn't terrible. It's just, mediocre. Although very, very disappointing. And it's disappointing because the pilot was really, like, truly was something amazing with lots of potential. So, what actually happened with Alpha Betas? In French Quebec, they have this phrase that roughly translates in English to, they fucked up. And that's exactly what happened to Alpha Betas. Going over the newer episodes we got, you'll see very quickly how they kind of messed up here, you know? Episode 2 is, wait, fuck, I'm reading the script wrong. I guess the major issue to discuss first is the writing. How the hell did we go from the pilot to episode 2? Looking further, it seems there was a change in the writing room. Teresa mentions how he and the rest of the crew had a lot more freedom and control over the writing in the pilot.
I think, personally, it would be Alpha Betas for me. Because it was so exciting and it was so, like, our brains were... It was nice to have something new to sink our teeth into. And then... we always wanted more control over it, and it just kind of was false promises, and then kind of it just turned to shit. I was like, how about we just make a really good fucking show and let us like write stuff? Like when we did the pilot, that was really us sinking our teeth into it and have more control. The other stuff, it kind of felt like just show up and read your lines.
Basically also talks about it and how the crew were quick to lose control over the writing process after they funded the entire show.
We ran with it. We're like, this is great. And then we quickly started to lose our grip on the process.
Okay.
And the creative control in a way.
Right.
Where it was like we were given the final decision, but the first 15 decisions were made for us. So it was like, we really don't have a choice. We're choosing between A and B, but we never got to choose
The whole alphabet.
the whole alphabet.
Yeah, okay.
So, and I think a lot of us were frustrated with the process. For an hour at 9 a.m. on a Wednesday every week, we're like, this face or this face? This face or this face? And we're just like, face 2. Everybody agree? Yes. This color or this color? This color?
Right.
And we're just like, this isn't creative.
Before episode 2 was premiered, Vanoss actually talked about his experience with the show, explaining how he was barely in the writing process and he didn't try hard enough to carve the show into a shape he would have been satisfied with, blaming himself for the reason that is.
And I'm gonna be honest, I'm not used to making shows like this. I mean, there's so many more people involved, you know, it's not like a Team 6 where I was just doing it myself and cutting up audio and having people, you know, redo lines and just ad-libbing on the spot. It's not like that at all. It's a much larger ship that takes a long time to move. You know, I wasn't even involved with most of the writing process, and that's just how it goes. I mean, you could see it's Chris and Dave's show. They're the ones who wrote it, and they're the ones who were in charge and directing us when we were recording our lines. The only thing I really did was come up with the storyline and the basic plot points about a year ago in the writing room that we had. After that, the writers make a bunch of decisions. You know, they write the basic script, and then we get on group phone calls and give notes, and it's just a much different experience than I'm used to. I mean, put it this way, I'm sure some of you guys are artists or there's things that you're really good at. Now imagine trying to do that thing, but you're doing it through a few other people and they do most of it for, you know, 2 weeks time, and then you have to give notes, you know, on a phone call. Technically, you could shape it into exactly what you want, but it's a lot harder than when you're directly involved and chipping away at it slowly alongside those people. And I really can't blame anyone but myself for that, because if I really wanted to, I could have sacrificed the time and spent less time on the channel or my music or my personal life and spent it more on Alpha Betas and tried to be more directly involved. But it's just something that wasn't convenient or it didn't really line up. And because this project has a lot of pressure, a lot of people are involved, and there's deadlines, you can't wait up for somebody like me. You just have to keep the process going. And eventually that snowballs into something that is very different from how maybe myself would do it, you know, hands-on directly. And the further away I drift away from the process, the more shy I am to suggest certain jokes or, you know, to fight for a certain joke to stay in the show, if it seems a little too risky or edgy. You know, those are decisions that if you're doing it yourself or in a much smaller group, you just do it because you feel like doing it. You know, you don't have to ask for permission or go through a whole process with a meeting in front of a bunch of other people. I'm just a YouTube guy, you know, I can't produce large shows like all these professionals.
This obviously explains why the pilot feels so different. It seems that the Vanoss Crew was doing most of the heavy lifting. At least enough lifting in which the writing suffered major damages after they were basically cut off. That or just the writers somehow dropped the ball so hard right there, I don't know. Also, I want to talk about the funding for the show. I'm going somewhere with this. They received $1.3 million from donors on Kickstarter and another $750,000 from 3 Black Dot.
You guys hit 750,000, they will put in 750,000.
That means in total they had about $2 million for alpha betas. Now, as far as I know, $2 million ain't shit for animation, but it's definitely not nothing to scoff at. It's been said by the alpha betas team that $750,000 is enough to produce 33 minutes of animation. If they got a total of $2 million, I believe they got about 90 minutes worth of animation. I got that by dividing the total amount they received by 750k. 750k can go into the total amount about 2.738 times. Multiplying that by 33, it gives us around 90 minutes, which means they had about a budget that can give alpha betas 90 minutes worth of a show. We're assuming it's 750k on the dot to create 33 minutes of animation. However, they said it, so I'm kind of just going to take their word for it. This would also assume all the money for alpha betas actually went to alpha betas and no one pocketed a chunk of the cash.
We also didn't make any money.
In return, we got about 47 minutes of animation in the 4 episodes we got in season 1. Now, that doesn't really sound like 90 minutes, but that's because we're not done. They spent about 26 minutes on bonus content, from the interviews to the holiday special to the bonus episode. They did indeed have 3 minutes of exclusive quote-unquote deleted scenes on the website, and I think that's about it. So the assumption is the total animation we got from alpha betas is 76 minutes, missing about 14 minutes of animation that should have been included from the budget. I can only assume the rest of the money was for paying off awards and campaign fees, like they said. But you know what? I don't really care because 76 minutes of animation is still pretty good. What boggles my brain, however, is that out of the 76 minutes of animation we got, only 47 minutes of it went to the show. That means there's a total of 29 minutes of animation used for bonus content for whatever reason. 29 minutes of that bonus content should have honestly been used on more episodes continuing the story, not interviews, holiday specials, or mockumentaries. With that 29 minutes, you could have had about 2 more episodes, giving season 1 a total of 7 episodes instead of 5. That would have given more time for characters to interact, that would have given more time to develop a proper story, maybe have a longer resolution, maybe have more longer lasting conflict. If not extra episodes, they could have used that 29 minutes and added it on to the already established episodes, making it longer. Instead of 5 11 to 12 minute episodes, it could have been 5 17 to 18 minute episodes. I find it weird they also spent all this time promoting the show with Bush House, also known as the Vanoss Crew, and Starburns Industries, only for both parties to either barely or not at all be involved with the final product. Like, fans donated to this, by the way, and $1.3 million were raised for the show. They probably would have felt scammed if they had known this would be the final result they received at the end of it all. You also get Kickstarter rewards, but according to this guy on Reddit, the rewards were actually so dog shit. But I don't think this guy knows what he's talking about. I mean, you're telling me that spending $5 grand on my rubber ducky can show up on episode 2 was a mistake? Yeah, okay, buddy, sure. So we're kind of back to the age-old question, what happened with alpha betas? Well, here's my answer. By the looks of it, it seems this was a creative idea that was started by Bush House, who would then pitch this idea to Chris Bruno and David Howard Lee. They both thought the idea was nifty and decided to go further with it, taking the idea and creating a world behind it, hence the story of alpha betas. I'd imagine both groups got involved getting a hold of Starburns Industries, probably with the help of 3 Black Dot, and then they would make a successful pilot that everyone loved. Bush House and 3BD would fund this project with the help of donors, only for it to be revealed there were tons of false promises involved. Bush House had lost the control of the writing very quickly. Either Chris and David took it and decided to basically cut them out, or 3BD got involved with the executives to push them back against Bushhouse involvement. Either way, somehow, some way, Bushhouse was pushed aside and barely involved with the show. Starburns Industries would also not be involved with the show. Whatever reason they had could be anything. My guess is either budgetary reasons or conflicts of interest. After a bunch of promotional work for the show, Alpha Beta's released 4 new episodes, a holiday special, and a bonus mockumentary. The reception was solid. Either people were being nice because it was the Vanoss Crew show, or maybe people truly enjoyed it. Years later, people would question the show to Bushhouse, to which they revealed they were barely involved with it. This also reveals that not many people thought the show was actually good, hence why the season's performance wasn't as successful as the pilot. And that's about it. I mean, the writer's strike happened after the mockumentary episode, and then the writer's strike ended, so I don't know. Alpha Beta's still done. Basically, I actually talked about Alpha Betas. He actually talked about it in the full podcast episode on Around the Bar. He mentioned how he and his friends probably would make more episodes or really anything with Alpha Betas if they had the IP for it. It's funny because they've done something like this before with Team 6, and despite making something great with Team 6, I guess that wasn't enough evidence to suggest that they were capable of making a show on their own, or at least writing it, at least for the writing process. I mean, after all, the reason people were excited to see Alpha Betas was because they wanted to see what the Vanoss Crew could do at their full potential. Instead, we didn't get to see any of that. All we got is a mediocre animated show that went nowhere, and that was about it. And that's that, really. I have nothing else to say. Shout out DoopaFat. Shout out me. Shout out Space Dingus. Oh man, Space Dingus. I can't wait. I can't wait for Space Dingus.